a molecule created for war, now contaminates the entire planet. Imagine there's a molecule, a chemical so strong that it can't be broken down, neither in the environment nor inside your body. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it's real. This poisonous molecule is inside you right now, in almost everyone on the planet, silently causing harm. What's even more shocking? For decades, the biggest chemical companies knew the risks but chose to hide the truth from the public. And this isn't just a problem out there. It's a direct threat to your health and safety. In this video, you'll uncover the dark secrets of Teflon and the so-called forever chemicals. Compounds the planet can't destroy and that quietly entered our lives. It's a modern mystery, full of surprising historical facts and curiosities the industry doesn't want you to know. Get ready to understand how this molecule turned everyday products into silent sources of contamination, and how it might be affecting you and your family right now. If you think you know everything about chemistry and safety, think again. The truth is more complex and scarier than you imagine. Stay until the end to find out what's being done to tackle this problem and, more importantly, what you can do to protect yourself. This isn't just information. It's a matter of safety. Let's dive in. It all started with a lab accident. One of those rare moments where something goes wrong but ends up changing everything. In 1938, a young chemist named Roy Plunkett, working for the company DuPont, was trying to create a new type of refrigerant gas. But instead of gas, he found a strange white powder inside the container. It was slippery, didn't react with anything, didn't melt, and didn't break down. At first, it didn't seem very useful. But this powder would soon be known as Teflon, one of the most resistant materials ever invented. The most curious part is that it happened completely by accident. And yet, this mistake would become one of the most important, interesting facts in the history of modern science. At the time, the world was on the edge of World War II. Countries were investing everything in science and technology to gain an advantage. And that's where Teflon found its place. Its ability to resist heat, corrosion, and chemical reactions made it perfect for the US government's secret weapon, the Manhattan Project. Scientists working on the first atomic bomb needed equipment that could handle radioactive materials without breaking down. Teflon was used in pipes, seals, valves, all of it. It played a key role in helping scientists contain dangerous substances like uranium and plutonium. Here's a historical fact few people know. Without Teflon, the atomic bomb might not have been possible. It's curious to think that a lab accident became a tool of war. By 1944, Teflon had a name, and its production exploded to meet military demand. But in that rush to innovate, no one stopped to ask, what happens next? No one knew the long-term effects of this material. The war created urgency. There was no time for reflection, just action. But as Teflon spread through labs and factories, scientists started experimenting with even stronger substances. Materials that would go far beyond the war. Substances that wouldn't break down, not in nature and not inside the human body. And that's where the real mystery begins. After the war and the success of Teflon, DuPont started thinking bigger. They wanted to bring this amazing material from military labs into everyday homes. But there was a problem. Making Teflon on a large scale was expensive and complicated. So they began using a substance called C8 or PFOA, a chemical that made production easier and cheaper. The thing is, C8 had a feature that was great for business but terrible for the planet. It didn't break down, ever. This molecule could resist time, heat, water, and even the human body. That alone is an interesting fact, but it's also a bit scary. Back then, no one really knew the long-term effects, and very few even asked. For years, DuPont dumped this chemical into rivers, landfills, and ponds, especially around the Washington Works plant in a small town called Parkersburg, West Virginia. They thought it was harmless if it was thrown away. But the problem was, it didn't go away. Water carried C8 into animals, farms, and eventually into people. Cows started being born with deformities. Fishermen noticed something was wrong in the rivers. People got sick without knowing why. All of this was caused by an invisible, silent molecule. A mystery that was slowly spreading through everything. And the curious part, the final product made with Teflon was still sold as clean, safe, and modern. The damage was growing, but no one was talking about it. After all, who would think that a non-stick frying pan was linked to dead animals and poisoned water? It sounds like a movie, but it's one of the most ignored historical facts of the 20th century. C8 didn't stay in that one town. It moved through soil, into milk, into bloodstreams. And while this was happening quietly, a single farmer's complaint was about to light the first spark. A spark that would soon force DuPont to face the truth and uncover secrets it had buried for decades. It all started with a farmer named Wilbur Tennant. He wasn't a scientist, but he knew something was very wrong with his cows. They were dying in large numbers, and not just from common illnesses. They had twisted spines, blackened teeth, tumors, and some even acted violently before dropping dead. These weren't random cases, this was something big. His land sat right next to a DuPont landfill, where the company had been dumping chemical waste for years. Wilbur began filming everything and reached out to a corporate lawyer named Rob Bilott. What followed was the start of one of the biggest environmental mysteries in American history. The most curious part, the poison was already everywhere, and almost no one knew. When Bilott started digging into the case, DuPont handed over thousands of pages of internal documents. What he found was shocking. The company had known about the dangers of C8, the chemical used to make Teflon, since the 1960s. Their own studies showed serious health effects in lab animals. Liver damage, birth defects, hormone changes, cancer. Later, they even found traces of the chemical in the blood of their workers, and in their own families. But instead of sounding the alarm, they hid the results. They didn't inform the government, the press, or the communities living nearby. That silence, over decades, became one of the most chilling historical facts in the story of modern industry. A fact that nearly stayed buried forever. Bilott wasn't the typical activist. He came from a background defending corporations. But this case changed everything. He spent years battling DuPont, facing threats, pressure, and constant resistance. But slowly the truth got out. People started to connect the dots. The non-stick pans in their kitchens, the strange health issues, the poisoned rivers. An interesting fact. Even after all the evidence, DuPont continued using C8 in products sold worldwide. This wasn't just about one town or one company. This was about a chemical that had quietly entered homes, bodies, and ecosystems. And if a secret this dangerous could stay hidden for so long, what else might still be buried just beneath the surface? After the C8 case came to light, scientists began asking a bigger question. How far has this problem really spread? What they found was even more alarming. C8 is just one part of a huge family of man-made chemicals called PFAS, often called forever chemicals. They earned this nickname because they do not break down in nature or inside the human body. And the most curious fact, these chemicals are everywhere around us. You can find them in waterproof clothes, fast food wrappers, makeup products, carpets, dental floss, electronics, and of course non-stick pans. Here's an interesting fact. If you have ever used any of these products, it is very likely you already have PFAS in your blood right now. The reason these chemicals spread so widely is simple. They work extremely well. They repel grease, water, dirt, and heat better than any other materials. That's why industries quickly adopted them, adding PFAS to many everyday items. But few thought about what would happen after their use. These compounds don't disappear. Instead, they move through soil, water, and air, eventually entering our bodies, where they can remain for many years. Scientists now estimate that 98% of the world's population has PFAS in their bloodstream. Yes, almost everyone, no matter where they live. And this is one of the biggest mysteries of modern times. How can something invisible to the eye be inside almost every person on Earth? The real danger lies in the effects these chemicals have over time. Studies link PFAS exposure to serious health problems such as cancer, hormonal disorders, infertility, and weakened immune systems. What makes this worse is that the damage builds slowly. There's no taste, smell, or immediate symptoms to warn us. People feel perfectly fine until the harm quietly appears, sometimes after years or even decades. That's why PFAS represent one of the most shocking historical facts of our era. These chemicals have been found at the summit of Mount Everest, deep in ocean waters, and even in rain falling in remote areas. No matter where you live, it's very likely PFAS are surrounding you, and inside your body too. Now that we know this, the big question is, how do we protect ourselves from a poison that never leaves? After decades of scandals and discoveries, public pressure finally started to make a difference. Environmental agencies like the EPA in the United States set strict limits on the amount of PFAS allowed in drinking water. Levels that might seem tiny, but they make a big difference. This is a significant step forward, especially considering that before, there were no standards at all. But what's both curious and worrying is that even with these limits, many industries still dump PFAS waste into the environment. And the most troubling part, the responsibility often falls on consumers, who have to spend money on expensive filters like reverse osmosis to protect themselves. But it's not just industries and governments facing this challenge. Researchers and startups all around the world are searching for alternatives and solutions to replace PFAS with safer materials. The race to find effective and less toxic substitutes is one of the most fascinating technological mysteries today. However, replacing something as strong and effective as PFAS is no easy task. There's also a matter of time. The legacy of C8 and other forever chemicals will affect future generations because these molecules never leave the planet, causing huge environmental and social impacts with consequences only time will fully reveal. This situation teaches an important lesson and invites us to reflect on our role. With so much information available and more studies being published every day, public awareness becomes the most powerful weapon. It's curious to think that change can start with small actions, like choosing PFAS-free products, demanding transparency from companies, and supporting stricter laws. After all, understanding the historical facts behind these chemicals helps connect the past, present, and future, preparing us to make wiser and safer decisions. And if all this seems complicated, it's because it really is. But knowledge, as always, is the first step toward transformation. Now that you know the shocking story of this poisonous molecule inside you, the question remains, what can we really do to protect ourselves? Is relying on filters and regulations enough? Or is the responsibility truly in our hands, as consumers and citizens? I want to know your opinion. What was the most surprising fact for you? Do you think governments and companies are doing enough to fight this silent threat? If you want to keep uncovering the mysteries behind the historical facts that impact our daily lives, stay tuned. We have many videos that will open your eyes to other realities that few people know about. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. After all, knowledge is power, and staying informed is the best way to protect yourself. See you in the next video.